So to be in there, in that, you know, within an hour, I would say 30 minutes is better than an hour. But if you can get there within an hour, get on one, your chances are, substantially higher, I think, than they are an hour and a half or 2 hours after once they have found that group and stuff. Um, All right, what's going on, everybody? Want to welcome you back to the Spring Legion podcast or slash VidCast. Now that we've kind of incorporated this video format into the Spring Legion podcast, that's usually available on the Spotify's and Apples and all that good stuff. Um, I don't know what episode this is that we're getting into, but I think we're kind of getting the hang of it. I'm your host, Hunter Farrior, with host Austin Sills here. Forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
But how's everything going? We're without Chase today because we've decided that it's dang near impossible to get all three of our schedules aligned. And some of these stories, if we're going to hit 20 something like we planned on doing, I don't know if we're going to be able to get all of them on the same schedule. So we'll have a couple with just me and Chase, a couple with just me and Seals, and a couple with just Seals and Chase probably. So
try to get together, all three of us, as much as we can, though.
yeah, I mean, we make a very viable effort towards it, but you can only do so much. There's only 24 hours in a day, and we're maxed out on all of them, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so we are. Some of these are pre-recorded. If y'all didn't know, we're recording as kind of in a bulk. The plan was to record as many of these stories from this past spring in a bulk, and kind of go over some of the videos that we've shared on YouTube the past season, which was uploaded. All of them that we uploaded during the spring was uploaded really on a very serious whim. Most times it was just a clip that actually had the hunt in it, and if battery and SD card permitted, we could have a whole hunt, and we just upload it immediately, as soon as we get back home or wherever we were at. And some of that stuff needs some explanation, because so that's why this podcast comes in handy, because we can kind of talk to the mentals and the reasonings and the reasons why we sat on this tree and the reasons why we should not have sat on that tree, and in hindsight, why we would have sat on a different tree or wouldn't even been there in the first place. So I think that's the best way to learn the turkey woods, is through hindsight of past experiences and lessons learned the hard way. And hunt a lot of turkeys, you get a lot of those opportunities to learn from them. And that's kind of all we're trying to do, is talk about it. And if folks are able to get a little bit of a upper hand the next time they're in the woods because of something we messed up or looked up and did right.
Looked up.
Yeah, I think we did our job, I guess. So, and if we don't do our job, this is still fun, and we're going to do it anyway. But yeah, we're going to dive into a couple hunts today. We might be able to get 2 or 3 in there. Seal's going to tell us a little bit about one he killed up in Vaughn, Mississippi, and then during the 2023 turkey season, I was still living in Georgia. So, and I got a 1 or 2 there that are worth telling. It's pretty cool hunts, I think.
Oh, yeah. No, and I don't think we've hardly talked anything about this Vaughn. Well, I know we haven't. And nobody was with me.
Yeah.
I know I called y'all right after and told you I killed a turkey, and the reason being is, to preface the whole story, I killed the turkey. I believe it was April the 2nd.
It was.
And
that was opening day of the second wave of turkey season.
That's right. And I had been in a slump. Back where we talked about the Delta turkey, one that I was in line to shoot just because of how the previous year finished. It didn't work out. Had several more hunts in Mississippi. I know me and our buddy Jordan had been on one, and it just was on the verge. Didn't work out. I know me and you had gone back, and it was always something. It was a slump, and it had been as many years I can remember that I had gone that long into a season.
Yeah.
And I was getting, you, Lake Joe, all our buddies were messing with me like, you about to have to go to the doctor. So,
because April, I mean, it's one of those things like nobody's going to sugarcoat it. We want to kill turkeys. I mean,
yeah,
there's no getting around that. I mean, I love seeing other folks kill turkeys, and I love being there, and then the turkey wins and you don't kill one. I love those almost just as much kill one, but I mean, I want to kill one.
oh yeah,
So I know what you mean.
and I was part of several kills. I just hadn't actually pulled
Right.
the trigger. So I was getting itchy. I was getting aggravated, whatever.
Getting to April, it's kind of like
I was like, April 1st hit. I was like,
Yeah.
I'll get one. It's a beautiful morning. Like today's the day, and it didn't happen. So April the 2nd, it was it was raining. I'm talking about.
yeah.
And I got up and like I'm going back to bed. Like I was in that. I was like I'm not even gonna get up and go. Laid back down and like I'm going. So I drove to Valm. It's about an hour drive.
Which is in what, Madison County, Mississippi, or is
Yazoo. Yazoo.
It's in
County.
Yazoo?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's right across the river from Madison
Right.
County. So I got up there and actually where I parked my truck, I sat there in my truck till probably 7:30
Mm-hmm.
or around there. It was well after daylight because it was raining so hard. And not to mention, this is a place we'd never hunted. This was my first time to go to this property.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd looked on X and all that, and I'd seen it had a creek running kind of along the north boundary. And I found what Hunter, if y'all know what Hunter calls an omega symbol.
Right.
I'd found that, something similar. It was more of like, I guess, a horseshoe. It didn't fully do like you did, but it was my best
Kinda
shot.
goes like this, comes back up.
That's right.
There's a hook in a creek or a bend or something.
Right. So once it stopped raining, I eased in, and I didn't want to push too far in because I didn't know I didn't know much about the property. So I eased in, and I slip in. I slipped in originally probably 100 yards, and I stopped, and I hooted, and I listened, and nothing. Couldn't hear anything, but also when you watch the video, you'll hear a constant hum.
Yeah.
And that is I-55 that you can hear the traffic going down. So you couldn't hear far. It had just stopped monsooning. So the woods, everything was wet, muffling sound. You couldn't hear much. I'd sit still for probably 10 minutes and ease up another 100 yards. And finally, I was just sitting there and I looking through social media, and I thought I heard something gobble. I was like, that's not really a gobble. So I sat there again, and it gobbled again, and so I had my mouth call in. I yelped a couple times, started out soft because I couldn't tell how far they were with the traffic, with the wet.
Mm-hmm.
The rain still falling off the trees. It was just a lot of obstacles. So I yelped a couple times. I think I probably yelped 3 or 4 times before he finally heard me. And he gobbled, and I could tell he was down in the bottom, which ended up being that creek bottom on the edge of that ditch.
Mm-hmm.
But I yelped, and he gobbled, and I thought he was getting closer, and I couldn't tell. So he started moving towards me, and finally I could tell he was kind of going to skirt around to the right side of me. So I jumped up and eased around kind of to cut him off for say, but not get in front of him. Cut him like he was walking around the edge of the tree, and I was here. So I just kind of paralleled him and eased up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I sat down, I didn't call or anything. I sat down and I waited for him to gobble. And he gobbled, and that's when I started calling to him. And what he did was he had walked on, and I looked at it after I killed him. He had walked that edge of that creek around and was coming back into my right. And when I moved up and cut over, it just made his path to me straight.
Yeah.
So I sat down and I called probably 2 or 3 times. He answered every time, and I stopped. And he gobbled 2 more times on his own, and that, I did a couple of soft, short yelps, some clucking, and then I remember trying to use my hand to ruffle leaf, and I did it, and it pulled my hand up, and it was covered in mud.
Right.
It didn't work.
I've done that, and you feel like
an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. I like I said, I yelped after he gobbled on his own 2 more times. I yelped once or twice, and I just stopped calling, and all of a sudden I thought I heard something drumming. And again, when you watch the video, I couldn't, I'd talk myself out. That's not really drumming. That's the interstate. I can't hear. I'm not going to be able to hear good enough to get him to drum. And about that time, I looked up, and I could see him coming to me strutting. And I believe it was believe it was 5 turkeys.
Yeah, I remember you telling me it was
6.
multiple at least.
But I looked up and they were coming, and I couldn't see at first because they were kind of all over here. I could just see their red head. I could tell it was male turkeys, so I had to let them get probably 30 yards and before I could see that they were gobblers or longbeards, and they eased up to me, and that's twice in 1 year it happened. But all of a sudden, one of them jumped. I was like, whoa! I mean, I know they didn't see me. I hadn't moved, and about that time, the 2 of them to the left were you could look at it, they were kind of fighting.
Mm-hmm.
It jumped up, and that's what it was. And then I let them ease in. I picked out, the one that was in range had nothing between us, and I shot him and he fell, and that was went and got him. But that was it shows you that you can't kill him on the couch, because I got back in the bed and talked myself into going hunting just because you wouldn't even. And I sat in the truck till well after daylight just because it was pouring down rain, and that turkey was. When I carried him out, I remember when I got back to the truck, I had to change clothes. He was so wet that from where I had him over my shoulder, my clothes were sopping wet.
That's and that's something I don't remember who I was talking to not long ago was talking about being there when the time gets right.
Yeah.
It's I will hunt in the rain. Most times if I'm hunting in the rain, I was out there before it started raining, and it started raining, and if it's not going to be a monsoon and stuff like that, I mean, I'm not, just dumb to the fact of like, hey, you can go sit in the truck until it stops at least, or find some shade, or a big tree or something, and get under there. And I've stood in big culverts before and waited them out, but if you're, it's a big difference in being there when the rain stops and leaving your house and go hunting when the rain stops.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Being there and able to, because when I think of, hunting in the rain, hunting right after rain, usually it's front and the pressure's up, and it's conditions are getting far better.
Right.
And then you throw in the fact that the rain has caused their activity of breeding and stuff like that, or I guess eating, but I kind of gear every strategy towards breeding, hens really. That's down, and so they're kind of really kind of bundled up, ready to go, and at the same time, like, they haven't been able to hear much, so they really don't know where other turkeys are.
Right.
Especially, you catch them in April. That's not necessarily the early season in Mississippi. That's around the mid-season, but especially in the Marches and stuff like that, the 15th or the 20th or whatever, when they're still really grouped up, they don't know where the hens are, and you happen to be the first one to kind of let them know, hey, one's over here, and they just trust you.
Well, and that was my thing is when I left, I was like, I'm gonna lay down here and go back to sleep, and I'm gonna probably, I know me, I'm gonna go hunting when it stops raining.
Right.
And that's what I told myself. Like, I can just go ahead and get up there, and take a nap in the truck. When it stops raining, I'm there. And luckily, I did that because you were able to slip around in that bottom real quiet and all that. And when I heard one, from the time I heard him gobble until I had him in my hands, probably wasn't 15 minutes. And it was just, like you said, being there at the right time when the rain quits, like pressure's up, the front and just moved through. And I believe it had rained the whole day before, all night. So they were probably raring to go.
Yeah. You catch them. I love, my favorite condition to hunt in is 48 degrees. You know that.
Yeah.
48 degrees with a barometric pressure of 30.1-ish. Or higher. I've hunted a couple times where I really think the pressure's too high. I'm like, I feel like I can hear turkeys for 7 miles, and I don't know what's going on if I'm even hearing them. And like, that feeling like your head's kind of like you're in an airplane almost. And I don't, and they don't act nearly as cooperative. They're moving a lot. I feel like, or else I'm just not able to hear as well. My ears are kind of funky at the time. But yeah, the higher the better on the pressure. And then if it rained the morning before, kind of throw everything else out the window. Like, I'm going to hunt because I feel like they're just really, held up, and that's what they're there to do. They got to, how we get that, that anxious feeling like you were probably having. It gets to April and I hadn't, pulled the trigger yet, or hadn't, thrown one over my shoulder, and you get a little itchy feeling.
And now let me back up because I don't know how the videos will be released, but I had killed 2 in Texas. I had killed one in Mississippi, and that's where Mississippi's where is my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
That's what
But
had me
when it
into
gets to April,
Yeah.
time's getting, you're
ticking.
through the trunk. I kind of like, you got the March, and once that's over with, you're like, all right, I got a month to hunt. And then it's like, especially if you just hunt the weekends, which we get to hunt a little more, but when we were just hunting the weekends, you got 4 weekends. I got like 4 opportunities left when it hits April 1st, and I'm really, itching by that point. But I feel like turkeys do the same. If they're not able to breed for 2 days, they're getting itchy too. They know
Yeah.
this is a season to them. So they're raring to go, and they're cooperative, and they're pretty vocal. A lot of times, I think they gobble a lot before you get there. If you leave your house when it stops raining, instead of getting there and parking your truck and just waiting it out. And
well, like you said too, is by the time if you wait to leave your house when it stops raining, they not only are they probably have been more vocal, but they've gobbled up hens, or they've found where they're going to be, and they're not as gonna not gonna come to you. You set the bar because you're the first one they heard.
And that's a good point to build off of, is because I think a lot of times if you do wait, there's a very, very finite period right there after the rain that they are cooperative, but it's kind of a very steep slope after that. Because once you think about it, turkeys want to get in the open in the rain, or as soon as it starts raining, or usually right after the rain, to A, dry off, B, to see, because the pitter patter you can't hear in the woods. So that's their mechanisms of survival instincts is to get where I can utilize my eyes more than my ears. If I'm not able to hear, same thing goes for windy, stuff like that, where the leaves are real loud. They want to get to where they can see better, but and they want to group. They want to get with other turkeys, because that's how they kind of get in the winter. For the reason is a higher chance of survival. There's
more eyes,
48
more
eyes
things.
looking around. It's better off than 4. So once they find that group, it's going to be hard to just make them curious enough to come walk into this kind of shadowy place where they can't hear anything away from all the safety. So to be in there, in that within an hour, I would say 30 minutes is better than an hour. But if you can get there within an hour, get on one, your chances are substantially higher, I think, than they are an hour and a half or 2 hours after, once they have found that group and stuff. And that's nothing. They use their eyes and they see the other group. It's kind of gonna be hard to call them off of it.
Oh yeah.
But no. Well, you I think you FaceTimed us, because I was with Chase and hunting in Georgia, and I just killed one in Georgia because that was the opening. Georgia has a private opener and a public opener a week apart.
Yeah.
Let's see. We were hunting on. I don't remember. You sure it was April 2nd, not after that? I think the turkey I'm about to talk about was killed on April 2nd, and the one.
Well, that's what I was just telling you. I can't remember if it was April the 2nd. I'd have to look back.
Might have been the 8th. I think it was
no,
8th.
It was the.
Or else it was the day after, maybe.
Maybe in the 3rd.
The turkey that I was planning on talking about, I know for a fact killed on April 2nd, because it was the opening day of the private
season. That was the first turkey
public.
you killed.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. Then it wasn't April 2nd. It was the second turkey you killed.
Yeah, which had to have been after April 2nd.
Yeah. I'd have to look back at the days. It was because I got back from Texas Sunday and I killed him Monday.
Yeah. So, it's probably the same within the week.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just thinking of that, because I was thinking about how to start, kind of telling this story. It's like it was opening day of the private season, which is April 2nd, and you called me.
Yeah, I'd have to.
And I was somewhere else, the different turkey.
I'd have to look in
I don't remember
my journal for the exact date, but yeah, I remember walking out that. And obviously the first thing I was going to do is call you when I got to the truck. But I had opened a Snapchat from Chase and saw y'all had killed one.
Mm-hmm.
So I just FaceTimed
Heck yeah.
you and y'all. We were both standing over a turkey.
Yeah, that's the first time we've ever done that. I feel like, not together. Several 100 miles apart, I guess. Yeah. That's pretty cool. But not. We'll get Chase here to talk about that one, because he saw a lot of the one that you mentioned, when you called me after. He saw a lot that I couldn't see because he was behind me running the big camera or whatever. He just came up to visit and stuff. And but the first one I shot in Georgia this year was on the private land. To back up, the one I killed second was also on private land, but it butted up to public land, so I didn't hunt there until the public land opened. So I guess that was the following weekend or the following Friday or something like that. I don't remember. But the The first one was it's on a piece I was familiar with, actually. I'd killed one on there the year before, and it's actually my wife's step granddad's family's or something. I don't remember. Got permission to hunt it.
Yeah.
Good land. And not a lot of it though. It's kind of it's definitely different than what we're used to around here. I don't know if ever would you buy it whenever you were up visiting and stuff. But I think where were we at? This was okay. So this was definitely the second because I was coming back from hunting with you in Mississippi when I saw the bird there. Then this was within 10 minutes of my house in Georgia when I lived there. And I'd take orders to the post office and I'd make that loop and go check because there's a big field out there. I don't know how many acres, but a big field that you would usually see them in. I don't know what they planted in. I never quite saw it. I'd see it right after they kind of would plant it and not know what's there. And then if I kill one, I don't want to kill two there with it being a small spot. I never really hung around long enough to see whatever came up, but they plant it every year. And then around January, I'll start kind of making them around and getting the itch scratched and stuff like that, trying to see if one's out there and seeing what we're working with here and stuff like that. But the year before, quick dip into it. There's a mountain. Say if I'm looking at the property, this big field I can't hunt, but there's a little buffer there that I can. That's not necessarily planted. It's like I think I can hunt it. It's just I don't have official permission from the guy who farms it. If that makes sense. So I don't want to do that. I can hunt the grounds up to a creek, and then like where the woods start, I can hunt. Then it goes a 50 yards to 100 yards creek, and then the woods and the mountain. I usually just try to stay on this side of the creek just to, that's where the turkeys will be. If they're in the field, I can see them. I can call them over and shoot them if I wanted to. But more than anything, I just ride by and see if there's one there, period, to hunt, and then I can go in there and hunt it in the woods.
Right.
It's
going to probably be early in the morning anyway.
Yeah. And then, I never really saw them fly down in the field or anything like that. But I want to say, so this was my second season hunting there. And the year before, I know there was two there. I killed one of them, and it had the longest birds I've ever seen in my life. And it was the coolest experience I've probably ever had with a turkey, I would say, because I was talking about that creek. Well, I'd been on him this is at like 11 o'clock. This is the year before. This is 2022. He was with some hens. I worked in these woods, kind of came up this mountain. It's not a mountain. It's a big hill, pretty much. To us, it's a mountain, though.
Yeah.
But came down, got within shotgun range of that creek, and then I think he might have been across it, like on the wood side. And there was it's like almost a hedgerow, which is kind of just really random right there. Like really thick wall of just foliage. And it's kind of hard thinking back that long, but I didn't know he was there. I'd walked past him. I'd called there. He answered. He's with like 7 hens. One turkey, 7 hens. One gobbler, 7 hens. I think I stopped there and called, and he answered, but I thought they were nothing but courtesy calls. Didn't think anything of it. Chances aren't great. The hens didn't really. One might have looked up the first time, and then they didn't pay me no mind. So I'm thinking, all right, they're not that interested. I'm gonna have to change it up and get somewhere else. So I kind of go back up or get on the other side of this big ridge or mountain or whatever, and kind of work down and come back over. And lo and behold, they had started working that way. So I had to undo everything and get back to where I was without calling. So that, they didn't know I did all this, but I did. And now I'm just really sweaty and tired, and it's humid. It was right after a rain. That's why I'm sorry. This was right after a rain, but I was kind of getting into the 2023 hunt. That was right after a rain, like in the rain a little bit. But now, to make long story short, I came back around and pretty much sat back on the same tree I called from, and they walked up to it like they were coming to that call. But before he got there, it was funny because that hedgerow was right there, and I'm telling you, when I hadn't gotten to the tree yet, but I'm like within like one good jump of getting that tree, and I have to stop because I'm like, what is that? And I didn't hear drumming, but I heard his wings on the ground. So I once I got back up here, I could see that they were headed that direction. So I kind of just came back and came all the way down to go sit there. And then once I get down there, I can't really see nearly as much because of that big hedgerow I was talking about. I just know they're headed that way. There ain't nowhere else they can really go.
Right.
Unless they just retreated back to where they were, which would be very typical, you know, just playing cat and mouse. But this was about a 70-yard walk for them and about a 350-yard walk for me. By the time I got there, so I don't see them, and I'm about to the tree, and I just hear these wings scraping the ground, and I'm like, that's what that is, you know, and I don't really know where it's at or anything, and I just see like a little glimpse of some feathers at the foot, you know, kind of a few yards there, and I'm telling you, like that turkey is strutting 6 yards from me, maybe if that. I mean, there's nothing I can do. I mean, and I know immediately he does not know I'm here because the ground's so wet, and I kind of come up on top of this creek, walk down this little, it's like a ravine. You know how like you'll see roots and just dirt, and it's just you can just slip. Which I know they're close, so I'm slipping. It's not like I'm just trying to hurry up and get there. So once I got back onto in these woods or whatever, this little strip of woods on the right side of the creek, I'm kind of like slipping, and then I see him. I mean, closest I've ever been to a live turkey. And I'm in, you know, the 12-yard step shots away, but I'm talking like, could have probably spit on him. And he had no idea I was in the world. He's just doing this and doing this. To the point, I can't shoot him because, I can't move or he's going to see me. But at the same time, I know he doesn't know I'm here because of all this stick stuff. And so I just sit there and watch him for like 5 minutes. Him and these hens have no idea I'm here. I mean, stupid close. And I pretty much kind of let them all turn this way and go walk backwards, kind of, or to the right, where I can sit down and shoot them around this. When they come back and make a call, and they, you know, kind of make a U and come back, and I shoot him at a good 20 yards. So, but yeah, that was, and I picked him up and went, oh my goodness, like that's probably the biggest birds I've ever seen in my life. They're up there somewhere. They both of them were over 1 3/4 inches.
Yeah, I remember they were. I remember in like the picture, you could tell how big they were.
I picked them up before I looked down and went, that's abnormally big. You know, I hadn't really looked, and I looked down and went, I don't know if I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen a few over 1.5 inches, but I don't really get into like measuring them that much. I measured these. I was like, I don't know. This could be daggum 2-inch birds for all I know. But getting into the story of the 2023 hunt, same place, I would think the same situation. I'd driven back by a couple more times and seen them in that field, seen them in these wood lines, see them, you know, near that creek and stuff. It's pretty open. You can see through the open field into the open woods when it is open before the leaves get there, and see them scratching around and stuff. And but most of 23 from January on, I hadn't seen nothing. So I'm kind of like, And they had cut the timber on the opposite side of the field.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about because I remember we rode.
Yeah.
And you were telling me about the timber being cut.
Yep. And I was pretty disheartened about that because I think there was turkeys roosted on there. I don't know. I never hunted over on that side, but I can hunt both sides. And this ain't but about 80 acres or so, I would say, on either side, give or take. I don't really know. But it held a turkey or two, it seemed. So I hadn't seen one, and I was coming back from hunting with you. You had a draw at a place down here in Mississippi. You and Jordan hunted it a day or so, and then me and you went back because the regular part opened after that, I think, or something like that. I don't remember how Mississippi's rules went. Yeah, because I had to have a draw.
No, I think we had the draw, and the day we hunted was the first day it opened up to public, not draw.
It was something like that, yeah. And pretty much, I think it was on the way home. I wound up taking a weird route to get home, and I was like, screw it. Might as well turn this into a 10-hour trip, you know. And I was like, it was about 4:35 or so. No, it was later than that. I'm sorry. It was probably 6:30. I don't remember what time it gets dark in the spring, but about an hour and a half from fly-up time, I would say. And I'm riding down this field line, and on the blacktop, kind of just looking. I see a dang strutter out there. I'm like, are you serious? Because the opening day is tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am ecstatic at this point. And because I really didn't I didn't have nowhere to hunt because the public wasn't open. So I was like, I mean, what do you do? And so I'm sitting there, and I go ahead and text the other guy who can hunt it. It's a family friend of theirs who I talked to before, and he's got a son. It's youth weekend, and I hadn't texted him since they went hunting to see if they killed anything or anything like that because we've been hunting, and but I told him, I plan on hunting an opening weekend. This was back in like February. I plan on opening weekend. After that, we're gonna be traveling so much. I don't know, but I'll let you know regardless. So they've youth hunted it once. And so I went ahead and texted him. I was like, planning on hunting here tomorrow. And like I'm telling you, there's no way he saw my text and then drove down the road. But I'm like sending it, and I see this little like side by side riding by, and that's what he's doing. He's going to see if there's a turkey in the field too, because apparently he knew there was. I just hadn't ridden by at a good time to see it out there. And so he's talking. He said something like, I don't remember if the little boy missed or something along the lines. They weren't really planning on going out there anyways. What it wound up sounding like, and he has no idea this turkey's. I mean, it's 300 yards out in the field. And it looks kind of like a dot unless you're actively looking for it. So I'm kind of. I try to. He might be listening to this. I try to like. There's some dogs out in the field or something, and I was like, I don't know whose dog that is. I keep seeing it or something, and I kind of changed the subject completely. Like before, you can say, "What are you doing? What are you looking at?" Or how you see anything? I'm just like immediately like, I'm trying to get to this over here, and really curb that. And so he drives on, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm already planning on hunting somewhere else in the morning. No big deal, yada yada." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. You just do that."
Yeah.
So lo and behold, it winds up monsooning that morning. I wake up and it ain't, and I knew going to sleep that night it's probably gonna be a late morning hunt, if anything, if I'm lucky. And I don't remember what time it was I get in this, but it's about 10. It's not even close. After the rain stopped, kind of the same thing. Got there, drove in the rain, got there and waited. Timed pretty good, honestly. Probably waited about 10 minutes or something. Get down in there and get in this little bottom part of it and go in there and have no idea if this turkey's out there. And I'm kind of just slipping, not really wanting to call until I can, hopefully he'll gobble. Hadn't heard it or whatever. And then he does sound off in the back corner after a while on his own or whatever. And I'm thinking, all right, he's here. We're good. Oh boy, because that, you're running through so many thoughts in your mind. Like, what if he did wake up? What if he was headed to hunt late and he did see it in there, and then he came in here and he shot it, and I don't know it.
Oh yeah.
And I'm wasting time hunting a turkey that's dead, and all that stuff's going through my mind, and I hear him gobble, and everything's good for, the rest of the day. I'm all right. I got something to hunt, and 24 hours before, I didn't think there was a turkey there to hunt. Period. And
Yeah, because I do remember I had to go somewhere the next morning, and I remember you were contemplating staying in Mississippi and hunting.
I wonder if it was Texas. Like, 'cause you left and then
it may have
came back to shoot that one, and that would have been the following week. Yeah,
it may have been. Because I remember you were contemplating staying where we had that draw, just because you said you didn't have anything in Georgia.
Right.
You ended up going home.
Yep.
So
and I was pretty bummed about that because there was turkeys where we were hunting on the public land, but they've been hunting like 4 days in a row. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I'd hate to just not go home and make sure there's not a turkey to hunt.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
But yeah, so he sounds off in that back corner, and then I'm all ecstatic, and I kind of gain as much ground as I can, and then I kind of see him walking. He's not in the field or anything, but he's in the woods with the fields behind him, so I can see a silhouette pretty good, and he kind of just busts on out there. I see a hen, and I'm looking at the binoculars, and I see him kind of rumble on out there in full strut, kind of still wet and stuff. I'm like, all right, here we go. So this is my first ever attempt at self-filming anything, and y'all know I ain't no Mel Gibson or Steven Spielberg or whoever produces these movies. I'm far from that, and I'm good to remember the camera and to remember to turn it on and remember where I put it after I threw it, and but lo and behold, I remembered to turn it on and all that stuff, and got some good footage of the leaves and my feet and all that. But it's on our YouTube, and it turned out to be a pretty, not informative, but a good little clip of real unaltered hunting.
Yeah, real life stuff.
Yeah. So I'm slipping down here, and then he kind of moves off this back corner, and I think I wind up trying to get the high ground on him, getting up this mountain and see if I could call him up there. I got in a little bit of a bind, I remember, because there wasn't, I couldn't hunt in the wide open, but I can hunt, as it goes down that little buffer area I'm talking about that we can hunt, me and that other guy. And I did verify with him, like, because he had the same permission from the same people I did. It's like, we just can't hunt the crop part, right? He's like, yeah, he's like, I hunt this all the time. Just don't get up out in there is what they just don't want folks out in the middle of the field.
Right.
Probably more so messing up the crops and stuff, I guess. I don't know. But as it goes down to the back corner, that gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So the further he kind of works this way, the better. Further he works that way, no bueno.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough to call him across the creek at that point because the creek kind of hits that corner, and I can't shoot across the creek because at the very end it ain't our property. So I'm kind of in the middle where it starts thinning down, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm gonna have to really call him either over here quickly or keep him. He come down and they're going back, and I know for a fact where they're coming out because there's a crossing in that creek that's higher than anywhere else, and the creek kind of does this and that. I know that because I got schooled by a turkey the year before, and I did not think a turkey crossed right there, and it did, and it saw me before I could shoot him. And so I know for a fact where they were coming in and out at, and I know they were between me and that point, so I couldn't get to their little crossing, and so I'm kind of at a standstill, and I called a time or two, not much, maybe twice, just kind of a little bit of a Hail Mary. Maybe I can just make it easy. Maybe they want to hear. He didn't want to walk over here, but they answered, or he answered, and the hens kind of started moving the other way, and so I get up on a high point, and then there's a good little chunk of time passes, and I don't hear nothing, and I've lost sight of them, I've lost sound of them, and I don't know where they're at, and I really don't want to bump them because it's the only one I got to hunt. So I'm kind of just sitting there hanging out and thinking and hoping, a crow or something sound off. And I want to say I actually even turned the camera, little GoPro or whatever I had around, was like, all right, update, because I hadn't done one of these since y'all just know it's raining. Here's what happened, yada yada, what I just said, and I'm gonna go up to the top and see if I can hear down on the other side. Well, about halfway up, crow sounds off and it gobbles it in, and he is exactly where I was about to walk, which would not have been great, but he's on top of this long ridge that's on top of this mountain, and assuming he's with the hens, but he answered that crow. I don't think I called real quick after that. I think I tried to let him gobble a time or two so I can get a better pinpoint. I don't like calling if I like knowing what their possible moves could be before I let them know what my possible moves could be.
Let them give away their position before you do.
And I got the range that he could be in now, but I would much rather have a pinpointed, what he's doing. Which way, if he gobbles once, you know where he's at. If he gobbles twice, you know which way he's probably going. And that's a big difference when it comes to what you're going to do next. So I let him gobble. He gobbles 3 or 4 times, honestly. So in my mind, he has bred a hen or two, and he's trying to get some more. I'm like, we're in a good spot. So I get up here, and then we're not necessarily in the best of spots because he is very close to that crest. And eventually, I mean, he's I would say a handful of steps away, walking right to seeing the whole side of the mountain. I'm just going to be sitting there looking back up at him. So I'm hoping he doesn't hear my footsteps, has no inclination at all that there's something enticing on the side. I pray to God a hen don't yell behind me because it's not going to be good, because I'm still 80 yards from the top. Wind up getting within 20 yards of it, safe and sound. He's still there. Hadn't bumped yet that I know of. And then I sit there, and I do think I called once or twice, maybe on the walking up. After I got within 40, I'm thinking, if he gets to the top and looks over, I at least got a chance to call him a little ways closer and take a shot if I need to. But I'm not going to be I'm going to be real close to a tree and behind something if I do call. And I did a couple times. He answered, which was good. But I had to hurry up because now if he's coming, he's going to come home. So I ease on up a little bit, kind of doing this weird little crouch deal, trying to go uphill and slow and not drop anything and not make a move, but not be loud. And this is the woods in Georgia are so much different than Mississippi that the leaves are huge. It's always dry. It's never really humid up there, so it's always dry. Even though it just rained, these leaves are still somehow making noises. I'm thinking, okay, which granted, about 2 hours has passed. So, I mean, give or take, they might have dried out a little bit, but so I'm starting to make noise. Like he's gobbling, and I think he's gobbling at my footsteps, and I'm like, all right, I need to hurry up and pick a tree at this point. Pick a tree. I'm thinking no calling, just scratch his leaves. He's answering every time I scratch the leaves. He'd hammer. And I'm like, maybe that's coincidental. Do it again. He'd hammer. He's like, all right. He knows. He thinks turkey's on his side, so that's good. Waited out. Never crest. Still on the same spot. He's just moving left and right at this point. I'd be willing to bet he ain't bred all the hens. He ain't ready to leave them. He's just kind of just showing out and gobbling at this point. And so I ease up. Now I can see the crest. And now we're good. I feel confident I can talk him to the top more than talking him over the whole daggone thing. Get up there and kind of slip around this log. And, of course, I do leave the camera on, which was a plus for me. So you can kind of barely see a boot or something, kind of get over this log and get right where I'm talking about. And I got my gun up and stuff like that, and I scratch a couple more times, and I don't know if he answers or he might drum to it or something like that. But then I can see his head at that point, just bobbing here and there, and he'd go down for a little while, strutting. I'm assuming he'd come up and walk a little ways. And more I did move or scratch or anything like that, the more he'd work up. And at that point, I knew he knew about me. He knew where my location was. He was probably going to, come on over. And he gets pretty daggone close. And I hadn't seen the full beard yet. I know the turkey I saw on the field yesterday and that morning was a long beard. But I've had some wilder stuff happen, so I wanted to make sure I saw a swinging beard. And so he was walking right in line with a laid down log or something. You can't see none of this on video or nothing, but I remember the way he was walking. He was out of strut and walking, and I couldn't see. It stopped right where Jake's beard was stopped, so I don't really know if it's sticking out or hanging down or really nothing. And then finally he moves aside or something. I see it on the bottom. I'm like, all right, that's the long beard. And no sooner than I saw that, he started, smelling a rat. He was like,
Yeah.
He's getting pretty close now, and he hadn't seen nothing, and he's starting to be able to see that side of the mountain and hadn't seen a hen yet. Not to mention this kid. I don't know how hard they hunted this turkey,
Right.
the week of these week and stuff like that. And he very well could have been there watching me shoot his buddy the year before. I don't know. He wasn't stupid, that's for sure. But he started, the jig is up pretty quick, and it started kind of, I heard a putt, and I went, oh, Lord, because, he just now got to where I can see the upper half of his body. He ain't got to go far down for me to not see anything, and there ain't much you can do at that point. Luckily, he didn't run down. He just ran right. So he didn't run. He just, started picking up, putting and looking at, putting and looking. And I picked a spot. I'm like, if he gets on this side of the tree, and as long as he don't cut down the other side, it's wide open. Luckily, he zigged when he should have zagged, But he has some daggone good spurs too. They're 1.5 inches something. I don't know. But it must be genetics in that little knoll and big foothill. But he has some. He's on a limb pretty good, pretty easily.
Yeah, I remember seeing the picture, but I don't know that I can ever forget the picture of the one you're talking about, the same place 2 years ago or the year before. I don't know if it's the area or what, but and there's some different places that we've noticed. I know we've talked about it, that the turkeys always have bigger spurs than others.
Well, I've always found, and I'm no biologist by all means, but the longest spurs I've seen, heck, I've seen some 1.5 inch ones in Texas where it's dry as all get out, but not many. But the sharp ones that aren't broken off are usually swampy areas and stuff like that. You got those like pearly kind of looking spurs with the pearly toenails, and it's got a white everything to it. I see a lot of those when I hunted up, around north central Mississippi, and then even into north Alabama. I'd see a lot of those. Never really saw them down here in the south, but you see the blacker spurs, or I'd say some look almost pink and they have a black tip.
Right.
I see a lot of those around the Port Gibson, like the southern part of Mississippi for some reason. I don't know, but it is almost like, I do remember thinking back, several years, probably over 10 years ago, I killed multiple at the same spot, like literally same little corner of the same property, 2 or 3 in the same year you were there when you laid in that ant bed. and all three almost had identical looking spurs. They were all like they're good. I mean, they're between inch and a quarter, but they all looked the exact same. They had the same little tip. It had to have been something to do with genetics, I would think.
Oh
But
yeah.
correlation versus causation, they're eating the same thing. They're in the same habitat. They might not be genetically
Well, that's what I mean. I don't know if
connected
it's
at all.
genetics or if it's terrain, but it's got to be one of the two.
Yeah, it could be luck. I don't.
Oh yeah, and it could be.
I
But
don't know how all that works, but I would definitely think terrain plays part of it because the sharp. I don't like them little inch ones that are still real sharp. That's the ones that get caught up in your glove accident. And I learned real quick a couple times. I got one on each hand that's pretty daggum deep from those 1 inches that'll get up in there and start twisting that
I was
glove.
about to say, you remember I dislocated my ring finger on one of our hunts.
It was swollen for daggum 7 months.
I know. I grabbed one like you're talking about, and it got caught in my glove, and the glove came off everything but around my ring, and it pulled it down. I finally got that thing off, and my finger stayed swollen for probably 7 months for real.
It really did. That's funny. I mean, not funny, but
That's funny now.
wild that would happen. But no, I've had some bad luck grabbing them by the feet, and when you think they're done flopping and they ain't, and they have one more hurrah, and they get. If you ain't wearing gloves, you can let go. But if you're wearing gloves, you let go, and they don't. It's
move.
still there. That's not a good feeling because you don't really know what to do. You can't really rewind it. But no, it was a good little place, and I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I wonder if they've cut that or anything like that, or if there's more turkeys there. Because I never really had time to go back and check. I think me and Chase went back. It was the week after I shot that one we mentioned at the very beginning, which was the second one. There's only 2 bird limit in Georgia, so I couldn't hunt. Chase came up, filmed that one, and then he bought a license, and I was like, we can go check this place. I have no idea. I don't think we heard anything, but it wasn't a good morning. We actually checked the side they cut, and wasn't nothing there that we saw. Saw some tracks and stuff, but wasn't nothing hitting that morning. But nah, that's some good hunts up in Georgia. Two of the bigger turkeys I ever shot was there. One had a 12.5-inch beard, and one had an 1 3/4 inch spurs.
Yeah.
I ain't never seen neither of those until then. Same year. Get 2, and that's the 2 I got. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'll be all right with some inch spurs and 9-inch beards till I die.
Yeah, that doesn't matter to me. But I
Full
think
fan,
me and you
swinging
were
beard.
horrible about it. How long's beard? 9 inches. I mean,
Yeah,
very well maybe 11
It could
inches.
be 11-inch beard. I'm like, that's a good old 9.5. I
So-
always go to the half, 9.5.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Neither one of us.
If it's
really-
thick, for some reason I think it's now it's 10.
Yeah.
I don't.
Don't measure them. Just guess.
Yep. Measure that beard and measure those spurs. I don't know if I'll ever get. I was curious. Most of them you see and that's a
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can tell
a
if it,
normal turkey, but if I see something, or if it had a 7-inch beard, I'd want to measure, see how short it was.
Right.
Just an oddity.
But no, it's yeah. I don't. We just go generic. That's 9.5.
Yeah.
It's spurs.
And then both I want to say both turkeys I shot up there had some cool coloration of the feathers too. One of them, when I killed with Drew, that had the real long beard, was black as night. That one, which is fan, you can't really tell, but it had that coal tint to it, real flat black. And then that one in the middle is the one that had the long spurs. I remember he had that white on his tail fan. It's crazy. This ain't like a braggadocious wall. We just thought it'd be cool to make, but I think y'all helped me put it up and was talking about labeling. I was like, brother, I know exactly which every single fan is. I can tell you where I was, the date, which turkey that is from that turkey, and every single one of them I know. Yep. That's still one of my favorites, though. It's from 3 or 4 years ago. It's like a hybridy looking one. That's from out west, though. We need to have a whole series of just, you got a 10-minute story on these. what happened, and don't get down the rabbit holes, and we'll talk about them. But
Don't go down rabbit holes. It's gonna be tough for us.
have we ever avoided them? Not that I know of, that's for sure. But without getting on another rabbit hole, you got anything else you want to drop in there? Just want to tell these 2 quick stories and remind y'all that these are podcasts, but they're also a video cast. So we if you're listening to this in your car, you can also I guess if you really want to watch us talk about it, you can watch us talk about it on the YouTube. But
you can at least see the hand motions.
right, I mean, if I'm talking about an omega in a creek, I mean doing this.
Yeah.
Might be hard to visualize that otherwise, or if y'all starting to, if I trip my words up on the property I was hunting, just know that this was the side I could hunt. This was the side I could not hunt. I'm on this side, you know. I got some hand motions to show. I don't know how it comes out whenever it's just audio, but yeah, and another incentive is that it does release on YouTube first. So if you're watching this, you know, upon release, you get a good, you know, heads up on it, and you get, you know, pretty conveniently watch what we're talking about, because everything we're going to be covering in these bulk episodes that we're recording, me and Sills or me and Chase Sills, that we're talking about these hunts. So far we've just dived into the ones that are already on there. In the coming weeks, we're going to be releasing the ones that aren't on YouTube and releasing those videos. And those are a little better, more conscious of what we're doing at that point. Some of these need a podcast to go with it because there is no other way you would know what's happening. But we're putting them on there anyway because that's how it really happened. But it definitely has an explanation goes a long way on some of them, I would say.
Yeah.
But some of the later season ones that we haven't talked about at all yet. Like I knew we FaceTimed on that one you mentioned, so I knew you had killed one. I just didn't know many details.
Yeah,
Some of these I'm like, I don't even know if I've told anybody this yet, you know. Saying some that you've killed, I know you killed them, but that's it.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into some of these we're going to hit that I don't know that I've told anybody just because not any negative, just because normally me and you are the ones that talk about it after we made our pact.
Yeah.
I just hadn't mentioned it.
So some of these are going to have the video come out. I don't know the order, but the video will come out within very close timing of the podcast that we're talking about it. And that's when it'll get good. That's going to be around the Januaries and stuff when folks are really focusing on turkey hunting and we're getting to really talk about stuff that we you know, that hadn't already been seen and stuff. Some of these videos we're talking about already have 50,000 views, you know, so folks listening to this might go, well, how did I know that was going to happen? Oh, yeah, that was already up there. So so what we're recapping this first half is stuff that's already been on the channel, put up there on a whim the whole hunt, and then we'll put a more condensed version for folks who have a timely schedule to attend. They don't have to sit there and watch all hour and a half of it. It'll be a quick one, but nonetheless, you know, I'm glad if you listen to this. We definitely appreciate it. I hope you're getting your mind right just like we are, because it won't be long now. That might be the first time I've said that, but all year. I know towards February I'm saying it near about 10 times a day. I'm just telling myself it won't be long.
Yeah, you're talking to yourself to just calm down.
Yep.
Not be long.
Just hold on to it. We almost there. So the focus is shifting, the mindset is drifting, and it won't be long now.
I was waiting on you to say.
Yep. But anyways, thank y'all for tuning in. We hope y'all will share the word, kind of tell other folks about our podcast. We definitely appreciate it. Each and every one of y'all who've rated it, definitely appreciate that, and sharing the stories, whatnot. If you want to learn more, check us out on social media at Spring Legion across the page, and also we got a website, springlegion.com. Got some cool stuff coming out this spring. This whole new ball game from what we're used to. So we're enjoying it, and some of it's racking our brain, but some of it is a lot of fun to tinker with and design and stuff like that. That's stuff that we would like to hunt with, that we now have the opportunity to make and produce, and so far I think other folks are taking on pretty good and liking what we're doing. So check that out, springlegion.com. I ain't got nothing else. We'll see you next week. Yeah, no, we're closer to